I'm joined right now by Chris Burns. He's the CEO of Dynamic Money and the host of the Chris Burns Show, as well as my partner Frank Morano, who joins us while he enjoys his cottage cheese.
That's right. Hello, Chris. Good to see you.
How
That
are you?
looks fantastic. I'm jealous. I've never seen such a large cup of.
The
Cottage.
bowl was bigger than the serving. You know, I don't have 4-ounce bowls. So you go to war with the bowls that you have, not the ones you wish you had.
No disrespect. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So Chris, so much going on. It appears you got plenty of time on your hands because you're writing some great op-eds. But it's hard to even unscramble what's happened so far. But what are the economic realities of life these days?
Yeah, I think the weirdest part of all this is that because the market keeps going up, it's hard for us not to, at least for a lot of people I talk with, not to feel like, well, that must mean the economy is doing far better as well, because we just tend to link the two, especially after 10 years of the longest bull market in history. There's this feeling of, well, if the market's coming back, that must mean all this is getting resolved. And unfortunately, we just don't know at this point. We really don't. And we certainly know that there's large economic ripples that are going to keep on going from this, and that the market is going to come up like it's doing, but it can easily go down in a few weeks on new economic information. So as one person I was reading yesterday said, it's kind of like just putting your finger in the air and trying to see where the winds are blowing, because economically, we don't really have a full picture of the fallout yet, but with over 30 million people filing for unemployment, it's going to be significant.
All right. So, Chris, if I can ask, a lot of people are finding themselves having unexpectedly hard times, even the people that still have a job. For instance, I was informed yesterday that I was getting I think an 8% pay cut because my company is having such a tough time. Now, I'm somebody that didn't get a $1,200 stimulus check because my 2018 income was over the amount necessary to get that stimulus check, but I still have all the same bills that are due. I have a hard time seeing how this is sustainable. I mean, where do you see this going for individuals? And trust me, there are people that have a lot worse off than me, and for the country as a whole.
Yeah, I think the hardest part about all this has been, I've done, just like you guys have, so many interviews like this where we have people call in at points and you start hearing the stories of just regular people all over the country. And that is very sobering, because it's one thing to look at the news and see, okay, from the 30,000 foot level, we have all this unemployment, we have all these industries in trouble. But when you get down into the micro tragedies, which is all the people that are losing their livelihoods, all the business owners, one of the articles I wrote was specifically about how the PPP, which was this major stimulus for business owners, wasn't getting to a lot of small businesses. So one of my friends up the street who runs a restaurant, and literally when all this started, said he was going to start giving food away to people that needed it, and he did. He's about a week out from losing his restaurant because he couldn't get the PPP.
No, you're seeing it all over the place. In our hometown, John Tobacco's former bar, Tobacco Road, the place that's there now, they just announced yesterday they're closing. They can't afford to stay in business. So this is going to be, I have a tough time seeing this recovery lasting anything short of, I think it's going to take us years to come back from this, if ever.
Yeah, well, no one in our generation has ever seen unemployment at this level, and certainly not anywhere near this quickly, right? I mean, it's nothing we have a good model for. The best models being used tend to replicate natural disasters at this point, because natural disasters will come in and effectively shut down an economy. But the difference is, when that happens, that's for a specified period of time. So we know, all right, there's a hurricane coming through. It may take us a long time to recover, but it's an event we can sit and measure. This isn't something we can measure because we don't know if there's going to be a wave, a phase, if this is going to come back and the virus is going to come back in a heavier wave, et cetera. And so making any sort of calculations like I see some people making, where it's, hey, in 3 or 4 months, we're going to see the economy roaring again. I just don't see the evidence for that. Nobody has proof that we're anywhere moving in that direction.
Yeah, I don't.
If I could just interject one last question, John.
Yeah.
Chris, so you mentioned the stock market. Obviously, a lot of people who are happy with the 0% interest that the Fed has. A lot of people looking to refinance, save some money that way. And a lot of people happy with the low gas prices, even if the oil companies aren't. Aside from those three areas, the beginning of the stock market rebound, low energy prices, and low interest rates, is there any other thing that you can point to that should cause people to be optimistic at this point?
Well, it's funny. The people I see who are most optimistic, it's almost like a gold rush feel for them. It's like, wait a minute, if all of this is happening and stocks are on sale and all these sectors are in trouble, now is the time that I can jump in. And don't get me wrong, there is opportunity for people that study this and are really deep into it. But I see a lot of people. I was talking with someone who's never been invested in the market that was telling me about his aunt's friend who knew about a pot company they should invest in Canada. And I'm like, look, this is not the time just to suddenly become, an armchair savant about the stock market and throw a bunch of money in there when you really don't know what's coming, because it could just as easily go the other direction in the next few months as more economic data pours in. So I would say we don't have a lot of really hopeful indicators other than the fact that it seems like the mortality rate on the virus is low, and this is all tied to the virus changing. But again, look, my grandfather was born in the Spanish flu and lived. His sister was born and died at the same time. And so it was basically like, this crazy reoccurrence. And if you read the history on that kind of pandemic, it can change so quickly. We just don't have the evidence yet for knowing where it's going to make accurate economic forecasts.
Yeah, Chris, we're talking to Chris Burns. He's the CEO of Dynamic Money. He's also the host of the Chris Burns Show. Chris, I have been saying for the last week or so, going back 2 months ago when the market was really tanking, I thought there was some support levels at 22,000 and 18,000. And when the market started to dip around 18,000, which are really like record lows, that's when the government started dumping trillions of dollars in. And I kind of feel like, people are artificially tricked into looking at the shiny object that, oh, look, the market's up, we must be doing better. But there's a lot of government help in those numbers. And I think, with my experience and yours, when I look out over the next couple of quarters, the market's a forward-looking vehicle. I don't see any evidence why people would be thinking there's appreciable value in there. And I'm actually looking for things to short at these levels, myself.
Oh, well, and I think you have the expertise to do that. I mean, I think that's the issue, is that, like you said, the level of drop that we've seen is something that was so quick and so fast that people are sitting going, if you've been in the market for a while, all right, where are the opportunities? But the opportunities often are in what you're talking about. But you have to really study to understand, okay, what am I going to short? Where is that going to be? Is that a risk I'm willing to take? And the thing that scares me is that so many people see the market recovering. You talked about the Fed a minute ago. Both of you have, actually. We've never seen, most people don't realize quantitative easing, this concept that, even though we don't want to call it that, we're doing that again to fund this $2 trillion stimulus plan. That's about the closest thing to printing money that you can do, right? Because literally one side of the government creates $2 trillion of bonds, the other side, the Fed, buys them immediately, or buys instruments similar immediately. And so basically, we're just introducing all this new money into the market. We can do that for $2 trillion. We can't do that for 10 or 20 or 30 trillion dollars. And so this can't last. We can't see government stimulus like this last unless we want to be a South American dictatorship feel.
Yeah, I gotta be fair. In 2008, 2009, I was very critical of the Obama administration because, like you said, I just thought it was a government Ponzi scheme. You got, the one side of the government printing dough and lending it to the banks at zero. Then you have the other side issuing treasuries that the banks are buying. So, we're giving them money at zero to buy bonds from us at 2. If some, Italian guys like Frank and I from Staten Island were doing that, they'd probably lock us up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And here's the deal. To a point, we can do that, right? To a point, we can say, all right, there's a certain threshold. And even though the Fed's really never gone into this level of different types of stimulus programs before, there's a level at which we know we can handle it and it won't have a significant impact on inflation, for instance. But like you said, we can't continue to do that long term. And so I think a lot of people are going, oh, things feel better. The market's a little better. I'm not seeing as much news about the virus spreading as
Got it.
quickly, et cetera, and that feels good.
All right,
But
Chris.
what happens in 6 months?
I got to leave it there. We're up against a hard break. Thank you very much. Frankie's going to stick with me. We're going to talk to Dr. Dean Hart in just a few minutes. Stay right there. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV.